Dear Tai, dear Tejo, dear beloved community, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. We have a full day here on April 21st. And as I said earlier, I'm at the Great Tree Zen Women's Temple, north of Asheville, North Carolina. And we're very close to the Trail of Tears and the Cherokee Reservation here. I was on the board of this temple when we found it and bought it and stepped out on faith. And Tejo called me about a month ago after I did a talk here, and she said, come and stay. And I said, oh boy, do I need that. So here I am in a meltdown. And so I want to welcome you to my meltdown. It's certainly been a difficult time, has it not, to be a human being, to be alive on the planet right now. So this talk is going to be about the vow. And I like to begin with a poem, and I usually use Larry's, but today I want to use a poem by Sally Atkins. And Brad can get this to you later. Thank you, Brad. It's called Tell Me, she said, from Picking Clean the Bones. Tell me, she said, what is the story you are telling? What wild song is singing itself through you? Listen. In the silence between, there is music. In the spaces between, there is story. It is the song of the place where you live. It contains the shapes of these old mountains, the grace of the rhododendron leaves. It is happening right now in your breath and in your heartbeat, still beneath your cracking words. It matters what you did this morning and last Saturday night and last year. Not because you are important, but because you are in it. And it is moving, and it is life. Listen, in the silence between, there is music. In the spaces between, there is story. Pay attention. We are listening each other into being. So dear friends, my name is True Original Vow. And when I first met Thich Nhat Hanh, I heard about the Bodhisattva vow for the first time. And I immediately wanted to receive the 14 mindfulness trainings, because that vow to be a Bodhisattva woke something up. It named something that I'd known in me all my life. And I had just had a husband die, so I was really aware of my mortality. I was really aware that he went off skiing and died. I was really aware that that could happen to me. So I wanted to receive the transmission where we get these jackets with Thich Nhat Hanh, and I wanted to do it right then. And so they persuaded me that it didn't work that way. And so I did the normal process, which is to start a Sangha and receive the 5 mindfulness trainings like we did today. Thank you very much for receiving the trainings. I never say congratulations, because to me, this is about inspiration and hope. You folks receiving the trainings today gives me hope. And I don't know about you folks, but hope is something very precious right now. We really need to activate our seeds of hope, our seeds of peace. So I knew I wanted to do this thing and it's no wonder I was given the name True Original Vow, because I wanted that vow right then to say, I really want to wake up. I really want to not contribute suffering in the world. I really want to help others. I'm not afraid to go into suffering. So that's what this vow is about. And the 5 mindfulness trainings are, you become what we call stream enterers. And so you've just fallen into, or jumped into, or been led, or walked backwards into a very fast moving stream. It's over 2,600 years old. And it's a good stream with clear, refreshing water. And we are very, very lucky to have found this. I found it through Thich Nhat Hanh. I really had given up trying to understand Buddhism. Most of the books in the 80s were pretty hard to read. If any of you tried to read any Buddhist books from the 80s and 90s, they had all these concepts like in one sentence. And so I always thought there was something about Buddhism that appealed to me, but until I met Thich Nhat Hanh, I didn't realize, oh, it's about how I live my life. It's about how I show up in my body. It's how I am, just the way I am today. And I don't know about you, but my mom used to say things like, oh, don't be nervous, Peggy, just be yourself. Well, I don't know about you, but that's not easy sometimes. I mean, come on. Some days I'm pretty messy. Be yourself. What are you going to do with that? And in fact, I'm kind of messy today. So my apologies for my glorious mess. But that's also what the practice is about, is to do our best when we're a glorious mess. And to me, it's connected to those vows that we make. I wanted to say something more about meeting Thai. My first retreat, I met Thai a month after my husband was killed. And that was a very difficult chapter of my life when I'd been a mystic and a spiritual practitioner and student and teacher, and everything I was doing wasn't seeming to help me. I had a client come into my office and she had a flyer for a retreat. This was 1990. And it said, peace in every step. And they used to use a picture of Thai when he was probably in his 30s and had hair still, had dark hair. And I saw that picture and thought, and I read that title, Peace in Every Step. And that gave me hope. I thought, is it possible? Could I possibly ever feel peace in every step again? So even though I'd been totally homebound with grief, I managed to get to California, and I managed to get to a retreat. And if any of you have been through a major grief process, you know how difficult it is to do something like that. And especially on my own, to get to a retreat where I didn't know anybody, and a silent retreat where I didn't know anybody. I even had to share a bed with a woman that I know I'd know anywhere from her perfume, because she wore a very strong, potent perfume, but we never spoke. That was one of the ways it gave me courage to know I could just show up and be silent at that retreat. And that retreat, I met that vow for the first time and saw myself. And that retreat woke up my love for Jesus that I'd had as a little girl. In my first 10 years of Buddhist practice, somehow that was what Thai did and the practice did for me. And it was only when we went to China with Thai. I think I might have told you this story. I was sitting next to him at dinner and he was talking to this couple about this American Buddhist couple. And I was eavesdropping. I thought, gee, they sound pretty cool. Wonder who that is. And it turned out it was Larry and I. And I'd never seen myself as a Buddhist until both that naming and also practicing with Thai in China. I was right near him when he did the prostrations in the temple. And I received this transmission. There he is. This transmission of love from Thai. And immediately that love for the Buddha joined that very fresh love I had for Jesus. And that's kind of how he looked when I first met him. That was 30 years ago. So this vow keeps shaking me, waking me, changing me, shaping me, challenging me, forcing me to grow up and show up. One of my favorite mantras is from Pema Chodron, and it's Om, grow up, Swaha. And you can repeat after me, Om, grow up, Swaha. That has been a lot of my practice as a vow-inspired person, to do what I can to grow up and grow in. Because this is what our practice invites us to do, is to know that it's already in us. It's just covered up. The Buddha nature is right there waiting for us to ignite it. And as Thai would say, to light up the incense of our heart. So I wanted to talk about the vow. And, you know, there's nothing mysterious or arcane or esoteric about vows. You know, somebody had a vow that made this computer that I'm on, or the food in our refrigerator, or the chair you're sitting on, or the roof over your head. That was all from an intention and a goal and a clear intention and a vow. That's a vow. But if we look at life through the lens of a vow, you might be touched by the dedication of beings everywhere that had an aspiration to grow, to change, to overcome an obstacle, but to do something unselfish and to dedicate themselves to something bigger than themselves. And I think this ability that we have to carry out a vow is just one of the beautiful things that we have as a human being. I learned from Tejo, who's connected with Katagiri Roshi's lineage from Japan. That's the abbess here. It's just the two of us here at this temple. But in an interview, Mazumi Roshi was asked, he said, Christians believe in this, the soul continues after death. Do Buddhists believe in something that continues after death? And he considered the question, and then he said, no, we believe in the vow. So think about that. Think about that. Let that sink in a little bit. What does that mean? What does that mean? How does the vow live on? And what I know is the soul is connected to our vows, our heartfelt promises. I don't know if any of you as kids were Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, Adventure Scouts, 4-H. I actually took a few from the internet because they're very powerful. Let's see, where is one here? I've got it written down. Yeah, Boy Scouts. Listen to this one. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally strong. You can really hear the beauty of the masculine of our nature and also some of the shadow in that, can't you? I've always got to be strong. And here's the Girl Scout one. Now, get this one. Women, we're really being invited and challenged. I promise, on my honor, I will try to serve God and my country, to help people at all times. I will do my best to be honest and fair, friendly and helpful, considerate and caring, courageous and strong, and responsible for what I say and do. Keeps going. I will respect myself and others, respect authorities, use resources wisely, make the world a better place, and to be a sister to every other Scout. Wow, huh? That's the one I took and I ended up dropping out of. But, you know, it's like, wow, that's a lot. Okay, now 4-H, anybody a 4-H in here? This one's a little bit more doable. Listen to this one. And think about how young you might have been or I was when you took these. I pledge my head to clearer thinking, my heart to greater loyalty, my hands to larger service, and my health to better living for my club, community, country, and world. Yeah, I like that one a lot better than the Scout ones, boy. But I remember being very serious as a little girl. Anybody else do it with me with the the pledges and vows. And yeah, you remember how, and you had it by heart? I mean, we had to memorize these things. Yeah, but vows are a conduit for life energy. It helps us be a packet. A vow is like a packet of energy. Here in this temple, we've got all these different ways miso is packaged. So there's these misos where like all of a sudden the tofu blows out. But a vow is like that. There's this packet of energy. And then when we put some energy into it with our breathing or our practice, it expands. Vows are like a gyroscope. You know what a gyroscope is? In a ship, it's this thing that goes around, and as the ship rocks, the gyroscope just keeps helping everything come into balance. So vows help us with equanimity. And if ever there was a time when we need more equanimity, this is it. This is it. This morning, we were doing Sangha with Minneapolis, the Zen Center there, and people here, and learning about what the city is like right now with the National Guard there and everything being boarded up, and waiting the jury to be sequestered, final statements on Monday. And then the new murders in that town. So that gyroscope, such a reminder to first take care of ourselves so our suffering doesn't spill out into the world. And again, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. And then to do what I can when I'm filled again to go back out there. So I'm here for 5 weeks to clean up so I can really serve. This year has been not only COVID, but the death of my mom. And that I really haven't had the time to honor that. And so that's the other reason I'm here, is that my mom is on the altar with me, and I'm practicing every day with her. And I'm so grateful to have a space. So I got a free place to stay, and I used mileage tickets, and I ran away from home like I've been wanting to do for 1.5 years. Anybody else been wanting to run away from home? That is one of the traumatic responses. It's fight, flight, or freeze. We're swimming in difficult energy right now. So when you feel that in yourself, wanting to run away, really take the time to breathe and resource yourself. Remember something you love, a memory, a person, a place, a pet. Take the time to resource in, because that's certainly what I've noticed in myself. But in myself, it's been a lot of the freeze energy of just a bit too much, too fast. And I know I'm not alone. I know our field of energy is tough. So that's why I wanted to talk about vows. I want your vow to wake up. Vows come from different ways. We might have a reactive vow. I'll never do this, or I'm going to do this because. An example of a reactive vow in my life is that my brother was killed by a drunk driver when I was 21. And so I quit alcohol way before it was recommended for Buddhist ministers. I quit it right then because I was in graduate school, and there was a question asked, has alcohol been a problem in your life? And my answer was yes. Yes, alcohol was involved with my brother's death. So that was a reactive vow for me, and a beautiful one. So you might think about those reactive vows. I'll never do this, or I'll never do that. And maybe you're here but from one. I've got to do this. Sometimes we inherit vows. And I've been looking at that with my own mom while I'm here. Because sometimes it seems like we're wanting to live out, or unconsciously or consciously, to complete something that an in-law, or mom, or dad started, or an ancestor. And it might be from a family member or mentor. And just to notice there's nothing wrong with an inherited vow or a reactive vow. We're just wanting to look at it. And then inspired vows. And that's what brought me here, was my inspiration in being with Thich Nhat Hanh and the monastic and lay community. I remember seeing the lay and monastic community that was Thai and being so amazed by the quality of their presence and practice. And so amazed by Thai's ability to be so light and free. And I knew his story, not being allowed in his country, not being able to go back home. And Larry and I were with him at a breakfast one morning when he heard his brother died. And he couldn't go to the funeral. And you know what he did? He got right up and did walking meditation. And we watched that pass, his energies pass through him. And then he sat down with us again. And I've seen him do that so many times. I always lean to Larry and say, "God, that would have taken me months." That would have been months. But I'll watch Thai move something through so quickly. And that comes from our deep practice. Thai isn't a magic man. He's an ordinary, self-realized being, like the Dalai Lama. I was with the Dalai Lama once when he was asked if he was a magic man. And you can imagine how much he laughed. And he said, "No, if I was a magic man, I wouldn't have this." And he lifted up his sleeve and he said, "Yeah, he has eczema." He said, "If I was magic, I wouldn't have eczema." So come on. I'm not a magic man. But I do get up every day and practice at 4. So about those vows, yeah, they can be simple or big. A Bodhisattva vow is big. It's big. Thai likes to remind us that it's our true career, that our true career as a Bodhisattva is our true calling. And guess what, friends? We've got job security. We have such job security to be Bodhisattvas in a world on fire. So sometimes it takes sufficient suffering or sufficient inspiration. So possibly sufficient suffering inspired your vow. I've been a therapist for many years, and I thought maybe next life I'll pick a career where people come to me because they're delighted to see me. Because generally people come to me because they've had so much suffering and they've tried everything else, and we want help with that. And yes, I'm always humbled that people will be vulnerable with me with their suffering. I'm humbled that you're open to my suffering today as I share from my place of meltdown at the monastery. So thank you for being supportive like you are. So to support our vows, because 5 mindfulness trainings a vow. The 14 mindfulness trainings are a vow. I made a few notes. What helps us, first of all, is ceremony and ritual. And we did that today. I hope it was nourishing for you. Not everybody likes ritual, but you can design a very simple ritual for yourself. Very simple. It doesn't need to be complex. But if you want to help support yourself, you can have your simple ritual. It might be something you say in the morning, or a very simple altar where you remind yourself, or a rock. When I'm working with forgiveness, I carry a rock around with me until it's gone, and then I bury it. Very simple ritual. So very important that we bring in the ancestors and our land ancestors and the angelics and the deities to support us, because they're all right back. Just lean back a second into your back body. You'll feel them. There they are, right in the back side of us, ready to support us. So ceremony and ritual. And again, it doesn't have to be fancy. Here at the monastery, we have a practice on Thursday morning. It's just a half hour with Tonglen. Very simple practice, but people show up on the internet because everything's internet here except for me. Oh, and by the way, I've had 2 shots. You can hug me. Yeah. So yeah, thank you. We've had our 2 shots. So that'll help. Remember that for your own practice. And those of you that received the 5, our practice is not perfect. I'm going to say that again. Our practice is not perfect. That is the white supremacist matrix. Unhook yourself. Unhook yourself from that matrix of perfection, judgment, comparison, and criticism. We're here to be the best person we can be in this moment. And that's what I'm doing my best to do, is to bring Thich Nhat Hanh to you, even in a meltdown. So the other way to support ourselves is to ask our ancestors, blood and spiritual, for help. And the very simple way I do this is by leaning back. Just really tipping into my back body and really picturing them there. And you can ask for certain ancestors. They don't always come, but there's some you might not want to support you. That's okay. Send them over to another altar. But ancestors are living and passed over. You know, ask them for help. So know that they're there. That's number 1. Name them. Maybe have an ancestor altar for yourself. And 2, ask them. They have to be asked. They won't help if you haven't asked them. So that's a 2-step ancestor process. And I do recommend having an ancestor altar. And the 3rd is family and friends. Yeah, let them know. Let them know that you're working on a vow, and then how they can support you. So give them that so that they know how to do that. I remember when I was finishing a book, there's certain friends that I said, please ask me about my book. And there's certain people I didn't ask because they'd go, when do you get the book done? It's like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. But other friends could say, how's the book going? And I could feel their support right there. Look for supporters. Yeah. As bodhisattvas, we're going to work with people that aren't so supportive, and we're going to have supportive people in our life. So know who to call. Know who to ask for help from. And have more than one. Because we're all having a little bit harder time these days. I was at a faculty meeting at my university, virtually, of course. And we all reported that we'd had students we've worked with some time, really great students, and none of them did as well last semester. None of them. I had a student I've had 3 times that forgot to use APA 7 style. You know, it's everywhere that you have to write academic papers in this style. And I thought, oh my gosh, she's having a hard time. She's having a hard time. So I wrote her and said, you know, you're going to still get an A in the class. So I don't need to send it back to you, but just know you're going to get a B on this paper for all these reasons. And are you okay with that? Or else I'll let you redo it. But she was like, no, I'm getting an A in the class. I said, good call. Good call. You're going to get an A in the class. But yeah, I knew she had too much going on. I actually wrote a few other faculty to ask what they would do. And most of them said, give them an incomplete. Our students are having a hard time. So then we have to support each other. Can you feel the support today? Can you feel it? Yeah, we have to be doing it. Like I said, it's hard. The energies of fear and grief are very strong out there. And for those of us that are practicing with them inside of us too, the grief with my mom's death, it's just a lot. I generally can clean up with meditation, but I find I've just had too much inner stuff to get as clean as I'm used to getting. And by clean, it's just about moving the challenging energies through. It's not that it's a bad thing. So to maintain your day, vows, how am I doing on time, Brad? Okay. What I really recommend is making sure you've got a beautiful start to your day. We each have our own definition of what a beautiful start to our day might be. When I was first dating Larry and stayed in his parents' home, we woke up to his dad absolutely shouting at the top of his lungs, "Thank you, Lord, for waking me up." Absolutely shouted and woke us up. Every morning, he would begin with a shout. "Thank you, Lord, for waking me up." That's a smart practice. Really smart. I had a great Grandma Morris that was a cave explorer. She went to college by selling Watkins spices. And she used to wake up in the morning and she would go outside and do a spin in the yard and say, "Good morning, world. Good morning, world." In our Thich Nhat Hanh tradition, we have waking up this morning, I smile. 24 brand new hours. I vow to look at all being with eyes of understanding and love. So begin your day with something that activates and nourishes you. Remember Ty's teachings on the nourishments? There's edible foods, this and that. This is about volition and will. This is about activating this vow that's already in you, not something made up, but it's already in you. You can have your own tool for reflecting. You can end the day with a vow. And I think the biggest thing for maintaining our vows is to ask for help. So notice how that's showing up everywhere. Asking for help. Yeah, know who to ask for help from for different things, and but ask. You know, let yourself be welcomed and received, and know it's human, normal, and necessary. Okay, human, normal, and necessary. It's one of the shadows of the Western culture that we live in an individualistic culture, that we're all in this soup, that you have to make it to the top as an individual. You know, the collectivist culture has a better understanding of how we get held together. So I want to encourage you to start thinking of yourself as being in a boat. We're in the Dharma boat together. Okay, so now I'm out of time. I'm okay. So Ty always talks about same boat. So the more, anytime you feel lost or alone or frightened, to just lean in, get the support from the ancestors, recognize, first of all, your own feelings, to not judge, criticize, but to say, "Oh my gosh, I'm feeling this right now. Can I send myself some love? And can I remind myself of my vow to live a beautiful life? This one precious life that we have." So we're going to go into Dharma sharing in just a few minutes, but I wanted you to look at your vow, your promise. They might be small, they might be big. I know after my husband's death, I made a lot of vows. First of all, I vowed that I'd make it through the grief. I vowed that I'd get through it because I knew I had a whole lot of living left to do. And I remembered my grandmother who had been widowed young. And that was what she told us. She said, "I've got a whole lot of living left to do." And she made a list. She made a list. So maybe that's where you're at, is making a list. Maybe it's crystal clear to you. Maybe it's a promise you made when you were 5 years old. Maybe it's an inherited vow. Maybe it's a reactive vow. Right now, we need Bodhisattva warriors helping with the earth, helping with racial reckoning, helping with care for society. The earth is in crisis. We're in crisis. And within us is this deep solidity and peace. From time to time, we're going to lose it. And that's mindfulness practice, is to name it and know when you've lost it. Like, oop, today I've lost my Buddha mind. Okay, what am I going to do to get my Buddha mind back? And sometimes it can go really easily. And like I said, I've been a kind of a magnet for difficulty with my grief that I haven't been able to be held with. For those of us that have lost loved ones during COVID, it's been very challenging to not have community. Very challenging to not have the hugs and embrace and presence of loved ones around us. I made my sister do a Zoom ritual. I actually had to call in the chips. She's a scientist. She's like, why would we do that? Why would we do that? And I finally had to say, you're doing it for me. Oh, okay, I can do it for you. Good. And her kids and grandkids showed up and we had a Zoom and everybody survived. Aunt Peggy being Aunt Peggy. But it's not the same as getting to be hugged, getting to be held. So that's probably enough about vows. I wanted to reread this poem before you went into Dharma sharing. I wanted to thank you. I know we're all practicing like our hair's on fire, because it is. It is. It's hard. It's really hard. Every day there's murder in the streets. Our friends are getting hurt. And for those of us that are white-bodied, do your work. Do your work. I know I'm teaching a class at the university and I've been in white awareness groups, and I've had Black family members for 30 years and I'm still waking up to privilege. So this is Tell Me, She Said. Tell me, she said, what is the story you are telling? What wild song is singing itself through you? Listen. In the silence between, there is music. In the space between, there is story. It is the song of the place where you live. It contains the shapes of these old mountains, the grace of the rhododendron leaves. It is happening right now in your breath and in your heartbeat beneath your cracking words. It matters what you did this morning, last Saturday, last year, not because you are important, but because you are in it. And it is moving, it is life. Listen. In the silence between, there is music. In the spaces between, there is story. Pay attention. Pay attention. We are listening each other into being. And I'd like to end with a gata. Let me respectfully remind you, life and death are of extreme importance. Do not squander your life. Take good care of yourself and each other.